The House Election Committee will come to order. Before we get started today, I want to take a moment to honor and remember the students from my community whose lives were taken last week at Michigan State University, and all those whose lives have been forever changed. In honor of Alexandria Verner, Ariel Anderson, and Brian Frazier, I ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Would the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Cerniglu.
Here.
Representatives Wegela.
Here.
Hope.
Here.
Kolazar.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Churches.
Present.
Markkinen. Smith.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Here to present from the Michigan Association of County Clerks is Barb Byram, the Ingham County Clerk, and Vanessa Guerra, former state representative and current Saginaw County Clerk. And I would note that Barb Byram is also a former state representative. You may come up.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So thank you, Chair Cerniglu, for the invitation to speak this morning on behalf of the Michigan Association of County Clerks, which is comprised of Michigan's 83 elected county clerks who are constitutional office holders, Democrats and Republicans, charged with all of the duties that typically go unseen. I'd be remiss if I did not start by mentioning that out of Michigan's 83 county clerks, nearly 24 of us are no longer in office since the November 2020 election, and numerous local city and township clerks have also left. As introduced, I'm Barb Byram from Ingham County. I am a county clerk, and then joining me is Clerk Guerra from Saginaw County. Clerk Oswald from St. Joseph County she does send her regrets she was unable to attend today. County clerks are the custodian of vital records for the state of Michigan and serve as clerk of the circuit court for our jurisdictions. The county clerk also serves as clerk of the County Board of Commissioners, statutory member of the Plat Board, County Election Commission, and many other statutory committees such as the County Apportionment Commission. We serve as the filing office for some local and all county candidates that run for office within our county. We're responsible for the administration and enforcement of Michigan Campaign Finance Act for those candidates that file at the local level. As a member of the Election Commission, county clerks also receive and review recall petitions for local candidates to determine if they are clear and factual. I'll try to keep my remarks brief and explain the role of a county clerk, specifically to our roles as chief elections officials in the county and how we conduct elections in the state of Michigan. Along with the previously listed responsibilities, the most prominent role of the county clerk is that we serve as the chief elections official for our county. We supervise the national, state, and local elections. We train election workers in jurisdictions under 10,000 in population. We're responsible for ballot and tabulator programming, all in about 15 days, which we program the election, send proof ballots to candidates and to local city and township clerks, meet with the Election Commission to approve consolidation of precincts, to approve ballots, and we coordinate ballot ordering and delivery to local clerks. We coordinate ballot container approval and certification with the County Board of Canvassers. We coordinate election supply orders for precincts and absent voter accounting boards. Typically, a county clerk spends election day fielding questions and responding to phone calls from local clerks and voters who need assistance when a tabulator is not functioning properly. Typically, that's a result of a ballot jam, which often happens when voters do not use Sharpies. Lines for same-day voter registration, when there are lines, local clerks will call us and ask for reinforcements to be sent. When there's a power outage or other emergency, or when there are violations of election law, and more. On election night, local clerks transmit their unofficial results to us. We compile these unofficial results and post them online for candidates, the press, and the public to view, Keep in mind those results that are published on election night are unofficial results. Local clerks also bring their election materials, their memory cards, tabulator tapes, and poll books for secure storage. They do not bring ballots to the county clerk's office. County clerks also assist in coordinating the activities of the County Board of Canvassers. So the Board of Canvassers is comprised of 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans nominated by their county parties, appointed by the Board of Commissioners to canvass the election. We are charged with meeting by 9 a.m. on the Thursday after an election. They review poll books and printed tabulator tapes, ensuring that proper signatures are in place and that the number of ballots tabulated equals the number of voters that voted. They can also retabulate the results or call in clerks and election inspectors to discuss any discrepancies that are discovered and verify the work the local clerks have done. Currently, this review must be done within 2 weeks of the election. Once completed, the election results are then certified as official. County clerks forward the certified results to the State of Michigan for state certification in state and federal elections. Our jobs are still not done. Recounts. For local offices and proposals, recount petitions are filed at the county clerk's office. Local recounts are overseen by the County Board of Canvassers, typically with the assistance of additional alternate canvassers and the county clerk. Regardless of whether the recount is filed at the state level, as Proposal 22-2 or 22-3, recounts that were done this past December, or at the local level, the county clerk is still very involved in organizing and conducting that recount. Audits. County clerks are charged with performing procedural audits for randomly selected precincts after most elections. This includes a hand tally of all ballots for a particular race. Ingham County completed a procedural audit for 10 precincts, for example, and associated absentee counting boards in the November 2022 election. They each take at least 4 hours. It's likely that county clerks are still working on an election up to 60 days after Election Day. And just after we finished, the next election begins. For example, I just started programming for the May election in Ingham County. Our association has been very engaged in Proposal 2, enabling legislation this year. We are here as a resource to you all as you begin to navigate these waters, so please do not hesitate to reach out. I'd like to point out, as you begin drafting legislation, that we might work for a larger jurisdiction. What might work for a larger jurisdiction will not necessarily work for a smaller jurisdiction. So a one-size-fits-all approach may not work. We need flexibility in the types of locations that can be used as polling locations, polling places, as well as the number of precincts allowed at early voting locations. Registration and real-time poll book connectivity should be allowed for early voting locations. Broader election-related legislation priorities that MAC, Michigan Association of County Clerks, has identified thus far are as follows. Additional funding to support election offices, state, county, and local. Changing the candidate filing deadline to 90 days prior to an election to allow time for programming. This includes state proposal deadline to have constitutional amendment change to allow for more programming time, at least 90 days to the election. Require training online options also for canvassers, election inspectors, poll workers, poll challengers, clerks, and deputies. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come before you and provide you with this high-level overview of the roles and responsibilities of the county clerks. I'd now like to kick it over to Clerk Guerra, or we could answer any questions.
Any questions so far? One of the other things that we wanted to make sure we conveyed to this committee was what 2022 was like for us, right? So we just got off a major election, and I would say, and I was glad that Clerk Byra mentioned it in her opening comments, but one of the largest issues that we're facing as county clerks and as the chief election officer for our county, overseeing our locals, is clerk retention. So our local clerks, we work with them on a daily basis, even though folks tend to think we only have elections every other year. At this point, we have elections every single May, August, and November of every single year, which means we're in regular contact with our locals. And I think what concerns me the most is that, when these local clerks first ran for these offices, they thought they'd be running, a major election every other year, not recognizing that they were going to have a special election 3 times a year. And also not recognizing that they would really sort of become the dumping ground, for lack of a better word, within their township. So the clerks at the local level, they do financial administration, they do payroll, they assist the treasurer when the treasurer is out, and now they have elections 3 times a year, every single year. And what's most concerning is that as their plate continues to get so full, they're going to start leaving. And when they leave, there is not a line out the door of qualified individuals to take their place. I'm very fearful that the folks who are looking to take their place do not have good intentions with elections. And so we want to make sure we're able to keep our folks who are experienced and who really ran for the office because they want to make sure people have access to the ballot and not people who have disingenuous intentions. So clerk retention is really important, and we want to ensure when we talk about funding, we're talking about funding for actual machines, so tabulators, laptops, things like that, but also to assist the locals. And I don't know if that, if we envision boilerplate language, so if you increase revenue sharing, language that specifically designates a portion of that to our local clerks, because they also have to work amongst their board, right? And so the treasurer wants money for this, and township trustees want money for that, but we want to make sure that specifically elections is being highlighted within this year's budget, and that our locals are allowed to work with us as county clerks to ensure that we can pull off another successful 6 elections, as what we'll probably have in the next 2 years here.
Thank you for that. And just to note, I'm more than happy to continue working with you on all of these things. As you know, funding doesn't come directly from this committee, but I will absolutely advocate for that funding. Having some numbers is always helpful, and I know we've talked about that before. But as far as I can see, there's definitely a commitment to supporting the elections and the early voting and all of those things that you have to do. So I will absolutely advocate for all of that funding and work with you on some of these other changes. I'm sure our other committee members are open to that as well. And I think we might have some questions. Let's see does anyone have a question out there on Zoom for the County Clerks Association? We did just have the Municipal Clerks Association, but I know that your role is very different. So we can see if anyone has a question. Okay, maybe I will ask a question then. And a lot of these things I'm familiar with already, although I do want to talk further about some of the online training for poll workers and the candidate filing deadlines. Have the clerks put together, I think we just kind of covered that a little bit, but have you put together any cost estimates for the resources needed for Proposal 2?
We're currently working with all of the county clerks to figure out how much they believe it will cost them. One of the considerations is, will the county be contracted by the local? Will locals contract amongst each other? And that's going to impact the cost. So we're trying to get a good handle on that. That's why I initially mentioned that legislation cannot be cookie cutter approach. There must be flexibility. But the cost is going to depend upon if the 1,500 county clerks are all going to open up for a minimum of 9 days early voting, or are they going to contract with each other, or are they going to contract with the county? That will certainly impact the costs.
Sure. I believe we have a question from Representative Burns. Representative Burns.
Thank you, Chair Cerniglu. I know during the presentation it was mentioned that there was a desire for additional types of locations to serve as polling locations. Was just curious what the clerk's thoughts were on that. What other types of locations do you think would be helpful in addition to what's offered currently? And how could we maybe support that?
So last legislative session, we supported expanding the options because what we're finding is that less and less schools are willing to open up their buildings as polling locations to the locals. So maybe community centers that might not be owned by a jurisdiction. Certainly the clerks had concerns about some locations, but I think between the local clerks and the county clerks, we do agree that we need some more alternatives for polling locations.
And I think we do expect it to lose individuals looking to host us even more so with the 9 early days, because the 9 early days applies to state and federal elections, but I think a lot of us believe that we should have consistency in our elections, and so I know a lot of our local clerks in Saginaw County, they want the 9 days even for their special elections. So now you're asking a school to allow us to put people in there for what could be about 40 days in an entire year if there's an election, 3 elections in a year. And so that's something that I think is going to have to happen very quickly is how we expand those, while ensuring that the individuals that are hosting those polling locations, of course, don't make contributions don't have a PAC or anything like that, because we want to make sure that we're transparent in everything we do.
Certainly. Thank you. That's helpful. And just one follow-up question. I know, our neighboring state to the south in Ohio has had early voting for some time now. Are there, certain types of polling locations that they've used there in other states that you feel would be a good model for us here, or?
I think we're open to suggestions, knowing that our options are limited, especially in some of the very rural northern our northern counties and in the rural areas. I mean, some clerks' offices are literally their home, and that's not preferred.
Right.
And if we do expand the locations, I think something that can't be forgotten too is that this might also be an area where we need some funding. So, for example, we did a security assessment in Saginaw County of all of our local clerks, and it was clear that they needed funding to buy things like lockers to secure their tabulators or to secure their laptops or their poll books. And so if we're going to expand into different places, we need to make sure that the machines and the equipment that we use in those places, that they're somewhere in that place where we can secure them. Because, of course, if it's a polling location is in a school or in your local township, typically they have that sort of storage. But if we do it at a community center, they might not have the level of security that we're looking for. It might be a great location, and they want to do it, but we need to ensure that they have the funding to secure the equipment as well.
And possibly
Sure.
rent locations.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that question. And also, just a note on that question, I have had some discussion with the municipal clerks about what those locations could look like, and, more than open to input, on what that looks like. I do plan to propose an expansion of allowable election locations. Just need to explore further on what those can be and what that looks like, which I think the information will mostly come from clerks. So thank you on that. We also have a question from Representative Kolazar. Representative Kolazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question has to do with completing the county canvass. Last term, I had a couple conversations with a couple of different county clerks who had suggested that that additional time to complete the county canvass would be helpful. I'm curious what both of your thoughts are on that and what you think the optimal additional time, if needed, would be.
Yes, thank you, Representative. So right now, the election is to be certified within 2 weeks after Election Day. That is certainly going to need to be expanded probably to at least 30 days, because if you will recall, under Proposal 2, military voters have an additional 6 days to get that ballot to their local clerk. Ballot, and usually it ends up being mailed to the county clerk. So the county clerk then has to get it to the local clerk to then turn around and give it to the Board of canvassers to certify. So we're going to need more time. We're going to need more time to certify the results. The canvassers are definitely going to need more time. In some of our larger jurisdictions, 2 weeks is not even enough right now for a large election in a large jurisdiction. So I would say at least 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah, we're cutting it short with the time that we have. So like in November, for example, we had Veterans Day was in between that time. And so some counties, they had to have their county open up because typically you have your canvas in your county building when the office building wasn't normally closed or wasn't normally open because it would have been closed for that day. And they get a lot of work done in a day, so every day counts. And so if you take a day away from us, that's a full day where we're not able to get that canvas done.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Good to hear from you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for your response. I have another question. Do the clerks have concerns with election security and the safety of election workers in the up-and-coming elections, and are there any legislative fixes to improve the safety of election workers?
Yes, we are concerned. Personally, I would like to see people held accountable for threats and intimidation they make on our election administrators and our election workers. The association is seeing people leave the field, whether it's local clerks or county clerks. And part of the reason why so many clerks are leaving is because of the stress and the attacks being made on dedicated individuals. So yes, we have concerns.
Thank you. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Reach out to us if you have questions, preferably before bill introduction. Reach out to us. We love to talk about election law and election legislation, and so we would welcome the conversation. Similar to the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks, our lobbyist is Bill Zagman, so he represents us here in Lansing. But if you need to speak with us, we are available to you. Know your county clerk. Reach out to your local clerk. And we welcome the conversations. We really do.
Thank you, and thank you for your work. And we very much look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will have testimony on House Bill 4033, introduced by Representative Paez, who is here to speak on the bill. Representative Paez. Welcome, and please give us a brief summary of your bill and why it's important.
Thank you. Before I'd start, I would like to say that Saginaw County Clerk Vanessa Guerra is also a former state representative, in addition to Ms. Byram. Madam Chair, Majority Vice Chair, Minority Vice Chair, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to House Bill 4033. This important bill is a reintroduction of former Representative Alex Garza's Elections House Bill 5951 of 2022, which was not voted out of the Elections and Ethics Committee. With the passage of this bill, HB 4033, municipalities would be reimbursed for the costs of elections specially mandated by the state to elect a state representative or senator or congressperson to replace the representative of the vacated office. With HB 4033, the state would be required to confirm and pay a municipality's special election costs within 90 days of having received the proper submitted documentation. Excuse me. The Department of Treasury and the Secretary of State would be responsible for setting the standard for reimbursable costs payable from the state's general fund. Reimbursed costs would not include permanent staff salaries or reusable or permanent supplies and equipment. At the state's discretion, costs could include pay for temporary workers, rental expenses, equipment transportation, publication costs, meeting and training expenses, janitorial, and other one-time only costs specific to that election. Municipal elections costs vary greatly and are dependent on multiple factors, including population and number of precincts. According to our legislative researchers, in 2022, standalone special elections were estimated to cost up to about $4,000 per precinct in more populous areas. In 2022, special primaries and elections were held for 4 legislative vacancies, House District numbers 15, 36, 43, and 74. Overall, our researcher found 20 vacancies in the Michigan legislature between 2013 and 2022. Vacancies were due to death by accident or illness, and resignation to take another elected office or return to civilian life, if you will. As many of us who have served in local or county government can attest, funding is already difficult to come by for routine and expected expenditures, and the cost of even, and the cost of even a water main break or emergency equipment repair can leave municipal finances in jeopardy. HB 4033 would ensure that local government could keep its resources and budget relatively intact without juggling line items that would be spent on other urgent needs and would not veer further off track than a temporary lack of government representation. Thank you for your consideration. I'm glad to answer any questions. And I would like to add also that this bill has bipartisan support, bipartisan co-sponsorship. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Paez. I also want to note that we do have a representative from the Department of Treasury, Rob Mass, available if we have questions directed to the Department of Treasury. So if we do have those, we will call you up here as well, Rob. Thank you. Now we'll open it to questions from committee members about this bill. I could start with some questions. Are you amenable to some minor language changes suggested by the Secretary of State and the Department of Treasury?
Excuse me, yes, ma'am, yes, Chair, I am. It's come to my attention that the Local Audit and Finance Division no longer exists, and so we would need to make either a substitute bill or an amendment.
Thank you. It looks like Representative Burns has a question. Representative Burns.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Likely a question for Treasury. Do we have an estimated annual cost just based on, average number of elections and costs from the past few years?
May I? Yeah, I'm looking at the House Fiscal Agency analysis, and they have the average cost per county is estimated at approximately $43,600. Special elections requiring a primary, and general election on dates other than a regular election date would double the cost to an average of, $12,000 per jurisdiction and $87,200 per county. I would like to add personally that I think there may be a couple of typos in here. I live in a small town of about 15,000 people. And talking with my city clerk about 5 or 6 years ago, the cost for an election, we have 6 precincts, was roughly $10,000. So I think if we add inflation cost to that, if we add extended time frames and more equipment given the passage of our proposal 2 last fall, I think they're going to be significantly higher than that. And given also that we've had so many in the past 9 years, about, 20 to 22, I think they would be significant, but not unaffordable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. What happens if a local fails to submit an accounting of the cost of a special election within 90 days? Are they then permanently barred from seeking reimbursement?
Honestly, I don't know. This doesn't address that. This is with the assumption that everybody will do their due diligence and take time. I suppose that given all the time frame juggling that we're going to be doing in the near future, that it may be more challenging to stick with those. I think we'd have to play that one by ear, but the way, this is written now, it doesn't take that into account.
Thank you. Looks like we have another question from Representative Burns. Representative Burns.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question has to do with really just the process in general. So if a municipality were to submit, accounting documentation for a special election, and some or all of it were denied for any reason. Is there an appeals process built in and a timeline, or is that something you feel we would need to look at maybe as part of this bill or as maybe an amendment?
Again, the way this is written right now, that isn't taken into account. I would think that would be something for consideration for an amendment at a later time, since that would take a lot more research on this, and it's a hypothetical right now, rather than something that we could point
Thank
out as
you.
practical with this bill.
Thank you, Rep. Paez.
Apparently there's already an appeals process for denied costs in place. I can't really elaborate on that, but
I'm sorry.
we could look into that further as we move along with this bill.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Right, the House Fiscal Agency does have something, this is if the state disputes an account. It would send a notice listing the reasons for the disapproval. And if the account is not disputed, then it would reimburse the county, city, or township within 90 days of receiving it. So what I have before me, at least, doesn't address the flip side of it if the municipality were to challenge it.
It looks like on the bill at the very end, it says, upon request of a county, city, or township whose verified account or portion of a verified account was disapproved under this section, this state shall review the disapproved costs with the county, city, or township.
Correct.
So there's some language to that. Perhaps making it more specific might be useful. That's something we can take a look at.
Challenged, right.
We also have a question from Representative Wigella.
Hi, thank you. My question was, under the current system, is there any type of state assistance or reimbursement at all right now? And if not, just considering, let's say, imagine that your state representative leaves office and then your state senator does in the same year at different times, that could lead to a really big cost. So just trying to understand if there's any current assistance from the state without this bill.
My understanding is that there is not. I believe, I hope I'm correct on this, that school boards, school elections may have some reimbursement costs. My understanding is that this does not. I think when we look at this, we may also want to take into account that although we may have special elections with this, oftentimes those are for primaries, and then something would move on to the general election, which may be the same date as other regular elections. So I believe that most of the costs in most of these instances would be primary cases.
Thank you. Has there been any consideration of what happens if the state fails to reimburse the local within 90 days of receipt of the local's account of costs?
It has not.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you, Representative Paez. We are going to have some speakers in support of the bill. Looks like we have Amy O'Leary, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. Amy O'Leary, if you are in, no? Oh, I'm sorry. So that is just indicating that Amy O'Leary is supporting the bill. We also have, I think I'm just going to read some of these cards in first. We have support from Bill Zagman from GCSI, Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks, and Michigan Association of County Clerks. We also have support from Madeline Fata, the Michigan Association of Counties. We also have support from Dave Hodgkins, Michigan Municipal League. Support from Judy Allen, Michigan Township Association. We have opposition from Phil Lombard, representing himself. And we have support from Melanie Maley from Promote the Vote. We also have, it doesn't indicate if there's support, but I believe Mohammed Rakim would like to speak to the bill. Mohammed, would you like to speak to the bill? Yeah. Thank you. You may have a seat and provide your comments.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I was just hearing a few different bills. I was hearing some things as far as, let me see what I was looking at. As far as like the disapproval accounts or the polls for registration or whatever, but I don't know if the let me see, what was the words? Like a lot of words are being redefined, so I don't really know. I'm looking up the definitions, but I know a lot of words are being redefined due to old Webster text. So, like, it's like, I know some of these representatives are saying they're speaking for the people.
Would you please turn your microphone on so we can hear you better?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, some people are saying they represent the people of the true blood cell African-American heritage, yeah, that is in the Northern Hemisphere. So I don't know how, I guess it's like money or help for the people, but a lot of the people don't even know. Like, I didn't know about, I had to do my research. So as far as people that's saying that they speak to the people, they represent the people or the population of this region or this hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, it's not nothing. And I don't know, some saying that it's a lot of threats being made, but I'm a representative for the people, for the African-American true blood cell heritage, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the reparation, whatever, all these bills, for the money and figuring out where the money's supposed to go and how it's going to help the true blood cell. But, you know what I'm saying, it's also bills that I looked into as far, now the 37 or the 5673 bill, yeah, we trying to get that money, but the 5674 bill about 2A and 2B and cancer and, you know what I'm saying, and what's going on with the Caucasian and how it's being cancer to the Caucasian body of the genesis or the gene, and the cell is affecting the gene. So the African American true blood cell is not a cancer, and I want that on record.
Thank you. Would you clarify for the record if you're in opposition to this bill or supporting this bill? We're discussing Bill HB 4033.
I'm in opposition to any bill that relates to the terminology was urban. So that's how we know that we the poor people. You know what I'm saying? The African American true blood cell is the urban people. But it got redefined to Royale or whatever. $262 million was given to New Mexico. And that lady seems like she is a black person, but a black person could be from Europe with dark skin color, you know, just being under the sun all day or get a tan. So I want to make clear that African-American heritage is the true blood cell. That's the identification. Now, I can give you all the key words you want for that.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't approve of any bill that go against the justice, equality, and elevation of the true blood cell. Any bill I go against, I'm opposed. We as the people, I'm a representative speaking for my heritage, my bloodline, the true cell.
Thank you, Mr.
oppose
Rakim.
any bill.
Thank you. Duly noted.
Yeah. Y'all can finish plotting on that. I want that, make sure that's record though. So while everybody quiet, I don't know what else going on, but make sure that get heard House bills that y'all doing out there, trying to take over our land like we don't know what's going on.
Thank you, sir. What we're doing right now, I was going to provide a final comment and let everyone know we are not voting on this bill at today's meeting. Thank you all for attending, and our meeting is adjourned.
All the refugees, all that shit, y'all not taking our